Hi everybody. Yesterday I did a video on how I checked my water culture orchid for roots after she had been in water culture for a couple weeks. And that generated quite a bit of interest in how to do an orchid in water culture. And water culture doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work for all phals, but most phals I've found do love water culture. There are some orchids out there that absolutely do not like it, but phals are not one of them. So with that being said, I just purchased her today, and as you can tell, she's looking a little played. But I thought I'd go ahead and get her. And when I brought her home, I said, hey, why don't I do a video on how I transition her to water culture from the moment I bring her home. So here we go. And as I've said, she is looking very played. Her leaves have got some distortion on them, as you can tell. And that, I think, is just from irregular waterings, which I believe, because this was not purchased at a nursery. It was purchased on the clearance rack. So, and I checked her. First thing I did was made sure that I didn't see any visible bugs when I bought her. And I didn't. Okay, so the first thing I do is I take the spikes that are holding their orchid up and I just remove them. Now I notice here, this is lovely, that they have taken the spike and put it right through the little leaf. Look at her. See how abused and neglected she's been? Poor thing, see, just lost a flower. All right, so just take her out of her orchid. Look at that, hardly any bark in there. But I'm excited to see her roots. I'm anxious to see what her roots look like. Let's dump her out. I'm going to keep that pot though. All right, here we go. There she is. Actually, her roots look a lot better than what I thought they would. They're green and yellow. Now, as I stated in my previous video, I don't really worry too much about the root color as long as they're not mushy or brown and shriveled. Yellow roots are good, green roots are good, silver roots are good, black roots are good, as long as they're not mushy. All right, so I'm trying to get all the bark off of here, all of her roots. And what helps me with that is I take her right over here and I rinse her really well underwater. And I make sure I get all that stuff off of there. Now some orchids come with a little peat moss plug right in the middle of her roots. Make sure you get that off. And if she does come with a peat moss plug, or it was like severely packed it into peat moss, you got to make sure all that peat moss is off the roots. And what I found to help with that is a toothbrush. Now I've sterilized that in some alcohol. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to scrub her and get all that stuff off of there. She looks really good. I'm really pleased with that. I feel kind of bad now that she was on discount. Alright, so there you go. See how that's all clean, especially in the middle. This middle right here, you want to make sure all your stuff is out of there. Sphagnum moss, bark, dirt, whatever's in there, get it out. Okay. So after I get her off all that stuff, the next thing I do is I do give a really good look at her roots. And when I say, when I'm looking at her roots, what I'm looking for is mushy. And thank heavens I really don't see any. See how that one's yellow and green? She's good, but because she's not mushy. Now, she is mushy a little bit right there. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let her go. And I'll explain that later. She's pretty green. So yeah. I don't see any mushy. She looks good. You know what, though? I might trim that off because I don't know if you can see that or not. That's really been tore up really bad. See how? So That's like running around with a hangnail. Let's get that out of there. Okay. So now your next thing that you need to do is find a vase. Now with vases, I find I collect all shapes and sizes, but I really try to make sure that they have a good round opening versus something like this. Let's see if I can show you. Do you see the difference there? This one's all cylinder, nice and round, and this one's got that enclosure. The reason why I would choose this vase over this vase is because it would get good airflow to my roots. You want good airflow to the crown. You want good airflow to the roots. So let's try this one. There she goes. It ain't gonna work. See how she's way down there? That you don't want. You don't want that. You want your orchid to be at least somewhere around in there. If you can get your orchid to stand up right about there in your vase, that's utopia. Now some people put rocks in the bottom. Some people put glass beads to help prop it up. I don't put anything in my vase because it's just bacteria, and it's going to get algae, and it's just, it looks nasty after a while. Now, I am going to try this vase right here, though. As you can tell, it's got a good wide opening. It doesn't, it's not going to compact her, I don't think, too much. Because that's another thing. You don't want these roots like this one right here. I got this one too, but you know what? I do kind of like that one. Yeah. Yeah. Never mind. Never mind rectangle vase. We're going to use this one. Alright. So she's in there. Now normally, if this was an actual orchid in distress, meaning that you had to cut a bunch of mushy roots or shriveled roots, or for whatever reason it hardly has any roots, I would go ahead and cut off these flower spikes, because you want the energy going to making roots, not flowers. And they will bloom again. But with this particular orchid, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave her flower spikes on there, because she already does have a good root system. And of course I'm going to lose these, but I think she's going to bloom again. So I'm just going to leave them. But this one right here I got to take off. She's driving me. There. Oh yeah, and this one too. Come on. Actually, I could take them all off. But it's better just to leave them drop on their own. Alright, so there she is in her vase. Now the next step is to add some water to her. Now normally, if this was just an everyday orchid, I would add my water to about there. You see how far up that is? That's all the further you really want your orchid to be in water. You want good airflow up around the roots. You want good airflow up around the crown. You don't want your water all the way up here because you're going to rot the orchid. But down here is great. But for this instant, since I'm just putting her in water culture, and she has been neglected, and she's probably feeling a little, I don't know, shook up, I'm going to give her a little extra water. I'm going to fill her up to there. Okay, that's all you got. That's all there is to it. I'm going to place her in an east-facing window, and I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to lift her up and look at her roots. I'm not going to, move her around. I'm going to leave her. I'm going to leave her for about 2 weeks. And then in that 2-week time, I will come back and I will lift her out of the vase and I will check her roots for mushiness. Now remember, which brings me back to that one, this one right here. 9 chances out of 10 when I come back, that's going to be mushy. I'm afraid to tell you. But it does still have some green, so it still is useful. So we'll leave her in there. But 9 chances out of 10, you're going to lose some roots. Don't worry, they grow back. It's just the plant adjusting to water culture. You're going to lose some bottom leaves, which speaking of bottom leaves, this one that's been gunshot through, I'm going to leave her on there. Even though she's damaged, I'm going to leave her because the plant hasn't given it up willingly. So it's still getting what it needs from that leaf. But basically, that's really all there is to water culture. You put her in the water, you walk away. Now, you do top the water off. Like I said, I want to keep that water right about there at all times. So periodically I'll check to make sure she's not all out of water, but I won't move her, I won't disturb her until probably 2 weeks when I check back with her. So if you have any questions, let me know. And thanks for watching and happy growing.